Hello, all you textual deviants, and welcome to another special emergency edition of Texting. I'm Mark Will in Taipei.
And I'm deplorable garbage in St. Petersburg.
Yes, you are. The title of this episode is Each Time You Vote, You Support the Process. And our text is the selection or election of 2024, of course, U.S. style. And if you're looking at the video in this first slide, you can see AI generated art of the two major candidates, two major party candidates. Um, Thanks, by the way, for getting me addicted to this app. It's called Magic Studio. What was the prompt you gave it to create this post-apocalyptic artwork?
Actually, I think it was Trump and Kamala making love.
And so it's Trump with a gun. They're holding hands, and in the back is some kind of there's like a wasteland that they're walking through, and in the background is some kind of explosion with a devil's face
Yeah,
in it.
it's impressive in a way just because I know that ChatGPT is notoriously tame for like avoiding anything that's slightly controversial, like it won't provide you with any hot takes on political matters and you know. And so
Right.
but AI is ready to spit out like some pretty crazy shit. So
Well, yeah, and there's some other examples
yeah,
we'll
there's
look
more to
at
come.
later. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is pretty fun. It is pretty addictive.
Mm.
All right, so um, on our playlist is Morrissey's World Peace is None of Your Business, which is where the line, each time you vote, you support the process, comes from. Also on the playlist is Killing Joke's Another Bloody Election, which includes the lines, another bloody election, another bloody erection.
Very witty.
Um, yeah, and then we've got the Talking Heads, the Democratic Circus. There's a circus coming to town. That's a great one to play as you're observing the spectacle. And then we have a callback to our MJ episode. We've got All I Want to Say Is They Don't Really Care About Us.
Nice. Great song. Do you want to step back a tiny bit and give a macro view of what we're doing with this episode, or
Well, we're just taking the election or selection or erection of 2024 in the US as our text.
mm,
So we're still analyzing the text as textual deviance. And we're not telling anyone what to do, obviously, but we're going to engage with this text as we do with all the other texts. It's no different from Don Quixote or the Book of Disquiet or whatever other text we've discussed in season 3.
are we trying to give any historical perspective for our respective attitudes towards the American election and maybe how those evolved over time, or are we just gonna
Sure,
let
we
the
can.
slides kind
All of
of?
that. Well, let's let the slides be our guide, but sure. I mean,
I think it would
whatever
be
you want
interesting
to.
to give some context of like our political evolution.
I think
Mine
it'll
I think
come
is
up.
quite amusing just because I went from basically lifelong Democrat, although whatever you are as a child is heavily dependent for many people, not necessarily in your case, because I know you were quite rebellious from an early age, but for many of us, we're heavily influenced by our parents growing up, to the point. So I was Catholic and I was a Democrat, reflecting my parents' personalities. And I was pretty excited about electoral politics in high school. I was friends with a daughter of a Republican congressman for my district, Congressman John Shadegg, Republican, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so because of
I
Courtney,
thought you were going to say Megan McCain.
yeah, I think she was actually well, McCain's daughter, I think, went to my sister's high school, Xavier, which was the private Catholic school in Phoenix.
There you
But
go.
yeah, so there were
He
links
was
there
a
as well.
senator, though, right?
Right, right. But I mean, I just wanted to say in high school, I kind of got really into politics and I was attending all these like RNC things just because of Courtney. I was also going to Democratic meetings and stuff. I remember who was the ex basketball player who ran for president? Do you remember that?
The ex basketball player. I remember an ex football player, Jack Kemp, but that was in the 80s before your
Bill
time.
Bradley.
Oh, Bill Bradley, of course. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, right.
So I remember going to see him speak. I went to see Kucinich speak. So I was in that generation, you know. I remember
Yes.
seeing Ralph Nader speak at U of A. Anyway, my first job out of college was canvassing the summer of 2004. And so I was in the
The
hot
summer of
Tucson.
love.
Well, yeah.
The
So I
summer
was
of love.
going door to door in the Tucson summer, raising money for the DNC, which, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds about as vulgar as the time that I told you about the time I challenged Carl Sagan, was it? Or who did I
Right.
challenge? Anyway,
Yeah.
was it Carl Sagan though, or was it someone else? Stephen
Yeah.
Hawking? I don't know.
You told me it was Carl Sagan. We
Yeah,
discussed that during
yeah,
the episode on abortion.
right. So yeah, so I was basically trying to fundraise for John Kerry,
Yeah.
um, who ended up losing. He was swift boated, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, did he lose? I mean, there was some electoral fuckery in 2004, just as there was in the year 2000. But okay, since we're getting into our personal histories, 2004 is the first time I ever voted.
Funnily
And
enough, I didn't even vote in that election, but I can't even remember now. Kerry was running against who?
Bush, it was Bush's
Bush.
second term.
Bush's second
W,
term, yes.
W, W's second term. So in Texas, I tried to vote green, but there were in Harris County there were voting machines just like everywhere else, and so I went through the whole process. I voted for David Cobb. He was the green candidate at that time, and at the end of the last screen said, "Do you confirm that you vote for George W. Bush? Yes or no?" Something like that. I mean, it was crazy. I think it finally let me, cast the vote for David Cobb, who was a pretty weak candidate. But then later I looked at like stats from Harris County, and it said 0 votes for David Cobb. So I know I tried to vote for him, and so did my friend Maria, but doesn't look like our votes were counted. So that was the first time I ever voted, and I was like 30 something at that time.
And the first time I ever voted was 2008 because I believed in the change candidate, Barack
Hope
Obama. I
and
voted
change.
hope and change. Yes, we can. And I voted absentee from Seoul. I
Yeah,
remember taking a photo of that ballot and feeling
you were
so
so
enamored,
proud,
so proud, so in
so
love.
virtuous. Yeah,
Absolutely. My
you took a
lifelong passion
you took
for
a
African Americans was finally like able to manifest in this vote. Still love African Americans, by the way.
what a triumph. You took a hit on that hopium pipe,
Yes,
which
sir.
we'll discuss soon. Actually, now. Um, so yeah, we've titled this. Well, we've said our text is selection with S in parentheses 2024, and that's
You
taken
fast
from
forwarded
this.
from 2008 to the next slide, but
No, this is. I'm just giving background on on the current episode.
All right, well, let me just finish my little bio, and I swear I'll go fast. I just think, it's worth saying. So, from 2008, partly because of you and other influential figures in my life, I've gradually veered off, gone left. I still got sucked in by Bernie. Did you as well?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're both still ready to align with the Democratic Party, even if it was a fringe Democrat. And now I'm in some kind of non-party transgressive space with the likes of Glenn Greenwald, Aaron Mate. Who else can we throw out into the world of the non-left or far left disillusioned?
Well, Jimmy Dore,
Yeah, I'm more uncomfortable with putting him up there for me because
Max
he's
Blumenthal.
yeah. So how do we define ourselves? And I'm obviously not trying to say that we're the same person, but I still consider myself a leftist, but I'm certainly not ready to vote Democrat. That's the
Well,
simple
we've
way of
talked
putting it.
about those left-right labels before. I mean, they're pretty meaningless now, but since we're on this slide, which viewers can see is the thumbnail of episode 58 of Whitney Webb's Unlimited Hangout podcast. And I listened to this yesterday. I highly recommend it. I'll put it in the show notes. It's probably more informative than our meandering chat will be, but Whitney Webb and James Corbett talk about selection 2024 without the parentheses. And they talk about, basically they say voting is like putting something in the slave's suggestion box. So that's a phrase that I quite like. And Whitney in particular was talking about how especially people on the right have attacked her for, black pilling people, by telling the truth, stating facts about their preferred candidate, who happens to be Trump in many cases, is black pilling. It's like, and so she says, well, for you to think that voting for either one of these candidates is going to solve your problems, that's just you taking a hit on the hopium pipe.
Can you flesh
They're
out
like,
this idea of a black pill a little bit more?
well, red pill, blue pill, white pill, black pill. Oh, I've been red pilled. Initially it comes from the Matrix, right?
Right, I know that.
Like you
Yeah,
take that, yeah. So the blue pill is the normie, you know, mentality.
safe.
Red pill is when you wake up from all that. And for some reason that's associated with, rightist or right affiliated movements, sometimes with MAGA, which is pretty absurd if you think that's the true reality. But then white pill is like being overly optimistic, and then black pill is being overly pessimistic. So
Doomer.
people
Okay.
have attacked her. Oh, you're black pilling us. She said, I'm just trying to be realistic. If your emotions can't handle that, then sorry, you're addicted to hopium. I'm not gonna give you false hope. And so that
Do we want
basically their
to?
opinion is, if you participate in this, if it makes you feel better, go ahead, do it. But you're just putting a little note in the slave's suggestion box. That's all you're doing.
Do we want to flesh out the value of the leftist label? Is that something that you feel would be worthwhile? Because you
I don't
just
know.
said
What do you
that.
want to say about it?
Well, how do we define leftist, and do we still want to affiliate ourselves with that label. Because for me, like a leftist, still associated with some degree of social justice and egalitarianism. Um, yeah, I mean, basically like Marxist, Leninist principles, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're well past all of that. Like, it's you've got two um, far right major parties to choose
Yeah, but
from,
let's leave that out of the discourse. Just
both of which are infiltrated by deep state actors. Um, and there's in the duopoly, in this binary system, there's no good choice. So
agreed.
it's
But
yeah.
forgetting all that, forgetting this election, just is the term leftist still something that you ascribe to, or
I don't even know at this point. I don't even
okay,
know. I think there's just resistance against um, the dystopian world that's being planned for us.
okay, fair
So
enough.
anyone who's opposed to that can be my ally in certain
Right,
situations, right?
right,
Like I don't care what label they put on themselves.
right.
If
I guess
they're if they're in opposition to the things I'm in opposition to, then
right,
maybe we
right.
can ally with one another and have some kind of solidarity. I mean, for example, I find myself agreeing with a lot of what Dave Smith happens to say.
Yeah, yeah, I like him.
he calls himself a libertarian, but
Right,
you know, he's anti-war, anti-genocide, even though he doesn't necessarily love that term. Um, what's more important than being anti-war and opposing like U.S. foreign policy?
all
And what
right.
do I
Let's look
care
at
if?
this.
Mm-hmm.
So I just googled leftist versus rightist. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so this is what it says. It's a very short paragraph. Ideological groupings. Generally, the left wing is characterized by an emphasis on ideas such as freedom, equality, fraternity, rights, progress, reform, and internationalism, while the right wing is characterized by an emphasis on notions such as authority, hierarchy, order, duty, tradition, reaction, and nationalism. Any reactions to that?
Very, yeah. I mean, that's really almost cartoonish, but
Why?
okay. I mean, because do you think that applies to what we now call left and right? Maybe.
Well, I'm wondering, like, do you think someone on the right would take issue with this? Because I mean, technically, this is like not supposed to be. This definition comes from Wiki. I'm not saying like Wiki means anything, but like,
Right.
is a right winger going to object to this? Maybe they would, but do you think they would?
I mean, some of
Tradition is
them
supposed to
wouldn't.
be a right wing value, right?
Yeah, but you've got some countercultural figures who now consider themselves on the right. They might label themselves as such. Um, anyway, I took one of those tests a long time ago. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
two axes, and I was
right,
leftist libertarian, right? So
yeah,
personal freedom, but corporations should not be allowed to rule our lives.
right. But from this definition that I've just posted, maybe you can even put it on the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the words that I think speak to me are
Yeah, liberty, equality, fraternity,
freedom.
internationalism. Yeah, not
All of that
not
is more appealing than the other, right?
yeah, not authoritarianism.
Not
I mean,
nationalism.
well, you know, nationalism. No, of course not. But national sovereignty. I've changed my opinion over the years about that. Right, like open borders have become a problem, and it seems to be deliberately so. It seems like intentional. I mean, every other country, like, we're expats, right? The countries we live in, they have guidelines. They don't just accept all comers. It's not easy to get into these places. So why should the US be any different about um who gets in and who
Mm,
doesn't?
I'm not really feeling that. I mean, I feel like so bad for people who have shitty passports that only allow them access to certain countries, for example. You know?
Well,
That's
I'm not
gross.
blaming the immigrants. Like, the reason they're fleeing is because the US fucked up their country, most likely. So
But
it's
I mean, even the tiered system of passports, I mean, it's bullshit, you know?
of course it is.
And
Of
isn't
course it
that
is. Yeah, I'm just saying that, some of the BRICS nations, for example, care about national sovereignty because they see that as a bulwark against NATO expansion, and you know
yeah,
so
I get that there's nuance to that.
mhm.
Sure.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
But
it doesn't. I'm not talking about like flag waving patriotism and standing at the border with Jesus and a machine gun.
but even the principle that like you're owned by the country you're born into, you know,
Of
like
course it's nonsense. Of
that's
course it's
all yeah, I
nonsense.
mean, so
But
you
it's
should be
a
free. This is your earth.
Oh, absolutely. We should be allowed to do that, but that's not the world we live in.
No,
Although,
but this is
you
an
know,
ideal.
yes, but you know, you also have to look at things from another perspective and say, even though there is this, just like with uh, Republican and Democrat in the domestic arena, that the shadow play is that they're opposed to one another, but in reality, they're like,
In
um,
cohorts.
yeah, in cahoots. So at the same time, like, to what degree is the enmity between the U.S. and the BRICS nations also shadow play on a certain level? I mean, there's real conflict there, but it's just
Sure, that's a good point.
factional.
Yeah.
It's just factionalism, right? Like, um, someone pointed out, maybe it was Max Blumenthal, like, the U.S. was envious of China's lockdown during COVID. It's like, oh, I wish we could do that here.
Right. Right. I
Digital
wish we could get
ID.
everyone to vaccinate.
Yeah. So
No, I think that's a good point. Like,
there's some overlap.
yeah, it's like I was trying to step back with the overall assessment of these two political leanings, and then you've kind of gone even more macro and said, well, ultimately, you can't even have one without the other, so defining yourself by one is kind of limiting, and I get that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, when I took that test however many years ago, that is how I was characterized,
Right, and me
leftist
too.
libertarian,
Yeah,
meaning, as I say, personal freedom, but, you know, we can't be ruled by corporations. Now,
sure.
how that's done, I mean, look, that also is in some ways a false dichotomy, like Whitney Webb talks about all the time, and I'm sure James Corbett agrees too. Like, we now have public-private partnerships. So it's a trick, right? They get the left-leaning people to like, wish for solutions from the state, and then they get the right-leaning people to wish for solutions from private enterprise, right? Like, oh, it's okay, um, uh, because Twitter is privately owned, but nothing is that clean, right? There's always public-private partnership. So that and there's a revolving door between you know the private sector and the public the public
Sure.
sector, as we know quite well. So
Right.
that too is in many ways a false dichotomy. I mean, just one example they mentioned, right? Like um, digital ID and surveillance and all that, right? So, of course, that's something the so-called leftist people were kind of on board with to an alarming degree during COVID, and the so-called right-leaning people were opposed to it. But now they're going to sell it. They're going to sell that to the right-leaning people by saying, "Oh, we need a digital border wall, right? We need border security. So the way to do that is to have a digital border wall." And so that this is, Trump is a way of bringing the rightist malcontents back into the fold, right? Like if they think, "Oh, one of our guys is in power now, so everything's fine," then they go back to sleep and he implements a border wall in the meantime with, help from Peter Thiel and his other backers. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a trick. They're just going to play both sides, dupe both sides.
Right, and that's why I was anxious to kind of separate the initial defining of these two wings from our political duopoly.
Okay, well, let's move on. Um, so we're both expats, right? So absentee voting, there's a graphic I found online. It says 4.4 million U.S. citizens overseas. 2.8 million of them can vote. So we're among those. And, when I vote absentee, it's in Texas. And when you do so, it's in Arizona, right?
Yeah, but I've only voted once.
Okay, so you didn't this year.
I only voted in 2008 for Barack, brother
I
Barack.
see. I
Yeah.
see. Okay, well, I was just gonna say, like, the process for doing it in Texas is like very complicated. I mean, I don't know if it's complicated. It's troublesome, put it that way. Like they try to put up as many obstacles as possible. You have to answer a question like, um, I plan to return to the States. I might return to the States, or not the States, but the state of Texas. I will never return. And I'm just thinking, oh, okay, what do they do with the ballots of the people who check, I will never return? Trash. You know, how do we know what
Is
they
this
do?
what's
Like there's
the pretense? It's like a type of census or something. It's like
I
an
don't know.
opportunity to
It's just a question you have to answer before they send you your ballot. And I
yeah.
know well, one thing I know is that people who don't reside in the state, they changed the law so people who don't reside in the state at the time of the election cannot vote in state elections. So I couldn't vote for governor, for example. I can only
Hmm.
vote in national elections. So I don't know. I thought you might have some insight on what it's like in Arizona, but apparently you're not in the
I
game
can just
anymore.
explain that I haven't filed taxes like ever. Now I have a perpetual fear of dealing with the United States in any bureaucratic manner, and
Yes,
my
when you
passport's
fly when you
expired,
fly
and
it when you fly in, they take you to a special room where an IRS agent is waiting for you.
exactly
Yeah,
take out my teacher's wages.
you never know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, just I guess this is just to say it's an unnecessarily complicated process. Like the last time I voted for Bernie in the primary.
I think you just reminded me actually. I remember, sorry to talk over you, but I remember in Moscow when things were quite different, there was an active branch of the Democratic Party overseas in Moscow, and I went to some kind of like dinner party thing, and I think I did vote for Bernie in the primary. So yeah, that was my last political contribution. But go on.
Yeah, well, I had to mail my. You have to log on to this system. You email the county um, vote. I don't know what she's called. Vote. I don't know her title. Vote coordinator or whatever. Um, they email you a ballot. I think you can also receive it by regular mail, but email was easier. Then they email you a link. Then you log on, you download your ballot, then you got to mail it back. And I remember I kept sending emails. Can you confirm that you received my ballot? And I had to like email 2 or 3 times. Yes, we got it. Can you confirm that you counted my ballot? Email 2 or 3 times, and then finally, yes, we did. Who knows? Who knows what they do with that? You know.
Yeah, I mean, you can who knows with everything, but with your Green Party experience, I can understand your desire to be verified or receive some kind of.
Well, I mean, what kind of
Well, I'm just
verification is
saying that
that?
they.
You get
It's
an you
also
get an email saying, "Yep, don't worry, we got it, we counted it."
well, I'm just saying
Okay.
it's also quite a demand. I mean, you want them to be emailed back every single person at every stage of the process. You know, I mean, like that's also seems quite demanding.
Well, how many expat absentee votes do you think um, this person in Brazoria County uh, gets?
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying, like, if
And
they
and
have
as I
received it,
say,
you
I had to follow up more than once. Like
yeah.
it felt like they were intentionally ignoring me. Okay. Moving on. How do you feel about the Electoral College? I included this because um, in a recent episode or clip from the Jimmy Dore show, JD got ratioed by people in the comments. They're like, "Are you?" Because he's in favor of dumping the Electoral College, and so was Kurt Metzger.
Right.
And these people were like, "Are you out of your mind, you fucking idiot?" That's like, two. They all quoted the same phrase, which apparently comes from one of the Federalist Papers. That's like two sheep and a wolf deciding what's for dinner. It's like, okay, so you support a system where the overwhelming majority of people are disenfranchised because they don't live in a swing state, and like every election is determined by a handful of people in one of these so-called purple states. Like, how is that a good
No, I
system?
think it's I
You
think it's
know?
insane. I think it absolutely needs to be dropped. It's
Yeah, but their argument is, well, we're United States. We're not one country. We're independent states who
I
choose
know,
to
but I think this is some
unite.
kind of colonial fantasy. It just doesn't reflect our modern reality.
Yeah, yeah. So you're in favor of dumping it.
Absolutely.
So you're in favor of two sheep and a wolf deciding what's for dinner, right? What would John Jay say? What would, James Madison say? I don't know. Maybe if I read
You
or
told me you were getting
reread.
persuaded by these comments.
No, I just see their point. Like, okay, technically, no, I didn't say I was persuaded. I said I see their point. I understand the argument. Like, okay, if you accept the premise that the United States really is a union of independent states that voluntarily come together, you can make that argument. And then they say, oh, well, see, it's balanced because in the House, it's based on population, but the Senate is like
Yeah, but I mean, even the idea
two for
that
each state, so everyone's equal.
all of a state's votes go to one candidate, is insane, right? I mean, so if you are going to have something like an electoral college, I don't know. I just don't get the whole. All of California's how many votes do they have? 40 something. it should
I
be
mean,
proportional
I think it's
if we want to
probably
attempt to
more than
be.
that, but I don't know.
But I mean, I'm saying, what do they say to
Well,
that? Why are all the votes of one state going to one candidate?
they who knows? Who knows what they would say? Probably, the founding fathers were inspired by God and they established this system in their wisdom. But, you have to ask the question, well, this system led us to where we are now. How's that
But I'm
working
saying,
out?
like, yeah, but I'm saying there is a cogent argument to be made for, the state having some kind of autonomy. But again, I'm asking, why not make those electoral votes proportional?
Well,
Because you're
aren't they?
disenfranchising. No, they always all go to one.
Oh, to one candidate.
Yeah, so if like 45% of California supports
Right,
Trump, they're
right,
all gonna.
right.
That doesn't make sense. It makes zero
Yes,
sense.
right.
So it seems
Well,
pretty.
I guess their argument would be, well, each state, you have the popular vote in the state, and then the state as a whole votes. But yeah, why couldn't they say, okay, 45% of these electoral votes go to the
Exactly.
minority candidate and 55% go to
Right.
the other?
Yeah. So just
No,
shows the.
it just seems like some cultish, founding father bullshit. They want to jerk off to portraits of Washington, Adams,
Or equally likely, it's just
Jefferson.
political opportunism. One of those things where, like, when it's in their favor, they support electoral. Just like free speech type arguments, where
Right.
when it's your side, you cry free speech, and when it's not,
Yes.
you're happy to censor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right. Well, that's
but Jimmy
just.
Dore is sus, as the young people say. I said it.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Elaborate on that.
I just feel like I'm not feeling his content, and I just feel like he. When I say content, I mean like the types of videos he's making seem more and more for a particular audience, and I think he's kind of shy to. I mean, I'm glad he's sticking with his opinion here, but I kind of feel like I don't want to go too into it. I'm not. He's not my
Well,
number one anymore. He's not my
I
heartthrob.
I love listening to Kerp. He goes off, and he does a lot of, esoteric research into conspiracy theories and
I guess
conspiracy facts.
I'm just very wary now of like my favorite pundits. They start out as like harsh critics of the left, and I like that. But then, yeah, I just don't want them to become cheerleaders of the other side. Like I love pundits that are ripping into both, right?
Oh yeah.
And like so, for example, right now, Glenn Greenwald is my favorite like YouTuber, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm very wary at the moment. Like, is he gonna go a little bit too far for my taste with like sympathizing with Trump and Trump supporters? Because
Yeah.
right, right now it feels like he's doing it quite well. Like he just feels more disgust, I guess, for the self righteousness of the left and the hypocrisy of the left than he does for the more obscene qualities of the right. But yeah, I
Yeah,
just
but
hope
he
like
calls
if
he calls them out too on their
he
Zionism,
does, but it's yeah, you just have to make sure that people. I think it's just really important people don't pander to their audience, and I know that's hard because that's where their bread is coming from, and you
Mm-hmm.
do want those videos to get hits and so on. But I guess I'm just saying also it seems like sometimes the comment section just loves nothing more than like when he rips the left than they do the opposite, and that kind
Yeah,
of troubles me a little bit.
you can get lost in those comments, and then you have to wonder, like, how many of these people are real? How many are bots? Like, is this genuine?
Really, I don't really.
You
That doesn't
never
really cross my
know.
mind that much.
You never know.
I saw an interesting. Do you know Anthony Fantano? You know who that is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He had like a pretty interesting video recently about the nature of YouTube comments and like how it rewards these like one-line jokes because people are
Mm-hmm.
just so impatient, and so people just click yes on the stuff that they have the time, that they have the mental capacity to read, and so those go up. And he said like in the YouTube like stratosphere 10 years ago, often the comments were like really long, thought out arguments, several paragraphs.
Now they're all
And yeah,
just
he
mic
just
drops.
exactly, and so he just thinks that that's just yeah, and that's it's sad, man. It's
Yeah,
but
it's
anyway.
yes, sad and disgusting. All right,
That should be the name of the pod.
alternative title. Okay, let's see what Team Coke has to offer this time around.
By the way, I'm drinking a Coke named Dobre right now since since Coke and Pepsi have left the building.
Oh, you mean they're banned in
My
Russia?
Not their band, the other way around. Like they've banned themselves. They've
Yeah, right.
refused to operate here. Yeah, we do still have some at the elite shops where the bourgeois go,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to pay a little bit extra.
All right, so
Those are good bubbles.
this time around, Team Coke is offering Zion Dawn.
Why
That's
did you? Oh yeah,
right.
okay. I was like Dion. I
There's
was like,
oh, it does say that. My bad. How did that happen?
but it kind of works because you spelled them similarly, so I felt like that's doing its own thing too.
Zion
You could
Dion.
say Zion Dion.
No, that's no good.
No,
Let me go back and correct that. I can't let that stand. Where is it? Gotta fix that. Zion.
while he's doing that, folks, it's 2014, Friday, November 1st, here in St. Petersburg. We celebrated
How's
Halloween
that?
at my school today. All right, we're back with Mark Will. Take it away, Mark.
As I was saying, Team Coke is offering Zion Dawn this time. So there he is, Donald J. Trump, with his sugar mama, Miriam Adelson, who gives him
I don't know who that is,
millions
by
or
the way.
billions of dollars. Well, that's the widow of Sheldon Adelson, the Zionist casino mogul. And so she's bankrolling Trump, and this is why we get slogans like "Make Israel Great Again." MAGA becomes MEGA.
Mm.
Well done, Team Coke. Oh,
It would have been nice if you'd
that's how
picked out a
you
choice quote from him, kind of talking about.
he actually said that. He said, "Make America great again, make Israel great again." There's a
No, no,
clip
no. I
of
mean,
him.
it would have been nice if you had a quote with one of his more odious, notorious statements supporting Israel recently. I mean, what does he
Well,
say? Just like
he
let
said
them.
something like, "The problem is Netanyahu's not doing enough. You gotta let him off the chain.
Yeah,
Let him take
exactly.
care of this problem." Something like that. So there you go, America Firsters. That's your guy. That's your savior. The Make Israel Great Again. Now, in fairness, a lot of his backers, if you read those comments, like when he talks this shit, they're not down with it, a lot of the MAGA people. But that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting if you support Zion Dawn.
Yeah, I'm just reading one article and whatever. I don't have to get into it, but it's interesting to see that again. The headlines, to Trump's credit, the headlines don't match his quote in context. Like CNN is coming off with the headline that says Trump says Israel needs to finish what they started.
Yeah.
But then you read a little bit closer and he says, what I said very plainly is get it over with and let's get back to peace and stop killing people. And that's a very simple statement. Get it over with. They've got to finish what they finished. I mean, It's not
Yeah,
great
but
language, but I'm
how?
saying that there's a little bit more to it.
Okay, but how do you finish it? You flatten Gaza and kill
You're right.
everyone.
And no, I mean he's definitely not good on Israel, but I will say that Muslim rally that he the Muslims that were rallying for him in Michigan recently did call him the more likely peace candidate, you know. Anyway,
Well,
I don't want to put too much stock in that, but
no. All right, so as we know, he was recently on Rogan, and like within an hour, it had been viewed 10 million times or something like that. It's probably up to 100 million now. Who
and
knows?
Theo Vaughn, and he's been doing the circuit of
Yes, that's true.
the
And
bros.
and by contrast, Kamala won't go on Rogan, or she said she'd do 45 minutes, but he had to go to her or something like that. So I don't think that happened or is going to happen. But anyway, I think I got through 11 minutes of this, and then that was enough. I couldn't be bothered. I don't care what either one of these clowns has to say, to be honest. How about
Apparently,
yourself?
she's gone on Club Shay Shay. Do you know that podcast, the one with Shannon
Yeah,
Sharp?
Shannon Sharp. Yep.
I haven't watched that, but I think that's like the only foray she's made into that world. Yeah,
Okay, but did you hear my question? You tried to watch it too and
yeah,
couldn't stand it.
yeah.
Couldn't stomach it.
I I think his interview. I'm on like a Theo Vaughn kick right now, so I'm kind of like, the last like 6 weeks. I'm really into his content, and
Did you
yeah, I
see
just
the
find him.
Bassem Youssef interview with Theo?
I think I saw parts of it. I saw the
That's pretty
one
good.
with yeah, I saw the one with what's Mate's father.
Gabor Mate.
Yeah, I watched the one with Gabor Mate, and I liked that a lot. And I liked that Gabor Mate was actually complimenting Theo for the side of Trump that he brought out. Like he said, he managed to kind of dip into this more reflective, more sensitive side of Trump when he was reflecting about alcoholism in his family. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think I think Trump is not. Yeah, Trump is not the scary monster that the left point him out to be. But then, as soon as I say that, I'm like, well,
No, he is, but his opponent is also a monster. They're
I don't
all
know, man.
monsters.
I don't know. I don't know, but
You don't? What do you
uh,
mean?
well, when I think about stuff like grab him by the pussy, then he's in monster territory, and
We're
I don't
gonna have
know,
to add,
man. But I
we're
just
gonna
think
have to
someone.
add we're gonna have to add Bowie's Scary Monsters to the playlist.
And I'm not trying to like slow the level of the pod. I don't want to like get into like dead air or actual time where I have to think and sit and reflect. But
Gotta keep it
the
snappy,
fact
man.
is
Gotta
exactly.
keep it
But the fact
snappy.
is, he can sit and chat, and I don't know. I just don't think that there's. I think he kind of is what he is,
Well, he
rather
comes
than
across as far more personable and like genuine and natural than his opponent,
yeah.
as we'll discuss in a moment or two. But that doesn't mean. I mean,
Well, how
oh,
do you
so you'd
define
rather
monster?
you'd
Like,
rather you'd rather have a beer with him, therefore he should be the world's most powerful person, and you should go
well, the
pull a
question is
lever
like,
for him.
how much of his motivations? I mean, obviously now we're in like the world of, I think they call it like pop psychology, or just such degrees of speculation that you wonder like what it's worth. But how much of his drive is pure narcissism or self-interest versus like some genuine desire to improve the nation?
I
What do you
don't need
think?
to speculate on that. I mean, I don't really care. I know his, well, first of all, he has a track record. You know, that's another absurdity. Like, oh, he got played last time, but not he won't this time. You know, he
Get
chose
played like
John
how?
Bolton. He
Mm,
chose John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. I
right.
mean, oh, but he learned his lesson and he'll never do that again.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel comfortable going into Trump defense mode. I don't know. It's
Well,
it's tough because I don't want to go either way. You know, like I do feel like the kind of stuff that Glenn Greenwald will throw at me a lot of times is like more focusing on the Trump derangement syndrome side of it and saying
yeah,
like,
yeah,
look, it's clear that people are, you know,
that
the
is a
comparisons.
thing.
Yeah, or like, and so like the comparisons to Hitler, how that's hyperbolic, comparison to Nazis, you know, the fear of like some insane fascistic government. At the same time, it is kind of fascistic, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's hard to balance like the hysteria, or even just something like, you know, in a conversation with my mom, love you, mom, you know, saying something like, oh, he said Mexicans are rapists. Well, that's not exactly what he said, right? Right? He said they're sending us their rapists. So it's these kinds of things that Glenn would point out, and I think that it is like, right. It's silly to see how the leftist media, or the, I don't even want to call them leftists, obviously, again, but you get what I'm saying. So I don't even need to go further. So go ahead and tell me, how do we strike that? How do we find that sweet spot between the two?
Uh, well, let's put a pin in that, as they say, and watch this video quickly.
Oh, you got a video set up.
Yeah, let's see if it
Oh,
works.
going high tech.
Let's see if it works. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right, let's see if
Mark
this
venturing
works.
into unknown territory for texting.
Can you hear it?
Is
Oh, I've got it
completely
muted.
made up. Joe,
Here we
okay,
go.
Republicans and conservatives aren't going to call this out, but it's like we're living in an alternate reality where everything you see is completely made up. Joe Rogan, during his interview with Donald Trump last night, actually said the rebels are Republicans now, that they're actually bucking the system. Republicans who accepted Operation Warp Speed and are currently consciously voting for the father of the vaccine.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to like buck the system. You're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online.
Yeah, Joe, never mind the fact that Donald Trump is also pro censorship online and is willing to mock people who say they want to maintain free speech online.
Because we're losing a lot of people because of the internet. And we have to do something. We have to go see Bill Gates and a lot of different people that really understand what's happening. We have to talk to them, maybe in certain areas, closing that internet up in some way. Somebody will say, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech.
Go see Bill Gates and close up the internet.
Yeah. And I hated that punk rock take, by the way. That was just like
stupid.
Fuck you, Rogan. Like,
absolutely,
you are the establishment, you motherfucker. Getting your fucking $100 million Spotify deal. So punk rock, bro.
It's freedom of speech. These are foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people.
Just so we're clear here, Donald Trump said you're foolish if you want to keep free speech online. But do you think Joe Rogan is going to press the issue with Donald Trump?
They're talking about regulating free speech.
Oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. These are foolish people. Free speech. Freedom of speech, freedom of speech.
And they're regulating the First Amendment.
Maybe in certain areas, closing that internet up in some way.
It's bananas to watch.
Bananas to watch. You know what's really bananas to watch, Joe? Seeing you interview the guy who wanted to get with Bill Gates to close up the internet and then turn around and mock those who want freedom of speech, calling them foolish.
These are foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people.
But then what's also bananas to watch is to watch you and Donald Trump run a psychological operation and seeing all the people in cognitive dissonance not say anything because they're too busy slurping down and funneling the Kool-Aid, and nobody's interested in flipping over this pro-conservative, pro-left versus right paradigm lie, dog and pony show gravy train.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well,
I got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win. But you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
by
great?
ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him to them if you win? It's the presidency has tremendous power. I could have put crooked Hillary.
I respected that you didn't, because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
So Joe Rogan respects Donald Trump for not putting one of the worst political criminals in the history of America in jail. Can anybody explain this to me?
All right.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a lot of mixed emotions during that. I think the right deserves some credit for being wary of the vaccine, for example. So that should be part of the conversation. But the punk rock thing, I don't know why, but that just really triggers me because I just feel like
they're rebels. You're a rebel. You're voting for a Republican Party candidate. Wow.
Yeah, and I just think Rogan...
That's so brave.
Rogan is not the rebel that he sees himself as, He's so mainstream.
Yeah.
He's the most cliche. I don't know. But anyway. Yeah. Whatever.
My favorite part of that clip was the bit about free speech, so that's just the hypocrisy of the rightist free speech warriors, I mean, at the end of the day, they're in favor of that, right? If it's their opponent,
well, some of them.
They want to do the same thing.
You would hope that Rogan
close up the internet. Close up the internet.
Sure, but that's not Rogan saying that.
Well, he didn't push back on it. And he didn't
have that clip in front of him, though. He just didn't. Maybe he wasn't researched well enough.
Yeah. Okay, well, so much for that. Here's another important article. I'll put this in the show notes. I sent this one to my father back in July, I think. I said, I know you're not going to read it. He said, yeah, I will. I know he didn't. It's this is from Whitney Webb's Unlimited Hangout website. The man behind Trump's VP pick. It's worse than you think. So, can you read the
subtext?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a bit too small for me. Go ahead.
While J.D. Vance has his own controversies, his close connection to billionaire Peter Thiel, who is poised to have unprecedented influence in a new Trump administration, should deeply unsettle every American who cares about freedom, privacy, and reining in the surveillance state.
See, this is why she gets accused of blackpilling. You're taking away all our hope. And her retort is, I'm not selling hopium here, okay? These are just facts. If you're too much in your feelings that you can't look at it, that's your problem, not mine.
Is she against all the third-party candidates?
No,
you said
she doesn't.
You have that quote about the slave comment box.
Well, that was James Corbett's comment.
Right,
so,
but I mean, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that she expressed an opinion about it. Probably she would agree with that. You know, they're all about local organizing and, you know, growing your own food and finding ways to live outside of the digital, you know, currency system that's being built and being promoted by both sides, right? Like I said, if Trump gets in, they'll sell it as a private. It's not a CBDC, right? Like it's not a publicly sponsored digital currency. It's private, so it's okay, right? Just let Peter Thiel run it, or let you know, the guy Jamie Dimon, let him run it. The Wells Fargo guy. It's all fine because it's private.
Right.
But it's herding you into the same prison, you know, digital prison. Anyway, that's a good article to read. And I'll put that in the show notes.
Do you want to say something about this Peter Thiel guy? Because I don't know much about him.
Well, he was a Facebook founder. He's got a lot of connection.
What do you mean a Facebook founder?
To the deep state. He was one of the original investors. You know, Facebook began as like a CIA program, so he was involved in that.
What do you mean? What about the whole Mark Zuckerberg story?
Yeah, that's the cover story. I mean, some fucking Harvard geek got involved with it. I mean, you don't think he created that himself, right? That was already a program at Harvard University. It was called The Facebook, and the whole thing was there are two pictures. You pick the hot girl that you would prefer, and then you get two more, and then the hottest girl wins. I'm just saying that technology was developed at the deep state level, and Peter Thiel was like involved in it, and then he helped finance Facebook. The whole plan was to digitally surveil everyone, you know, but they got us to do it voluntarily because we all post our location and all our personal details. It's like we're giving the deep state access to all of our information. They herded us into that concentration camp, that digital concentration camp, advertising it as fun and a way to connect with friends and do business. But it's been deep state all along, just like Twitter. Oh, but Elon Musk bought it, so now, you know, our guy is in charge, so it's fine. It's a free speech platform, but just don't say anything against Israel. Don't say anything that Elon doesn't like. I mean, the guy's a Pentagon contractor. He's the free speech warrior. Get the fuck out of here. What a joke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, read the article for more details about Peter Thiel, and there are interviews with her online too. I can maybe find some links, but
with her,
you know, Whitney Webb talking about all of these issues. You know, J.D. Vance is the Hillbilly Elegy author.
Yeah.
Did you tell me you read it?
No, my mom read it with her book club.
Yeah. And probably liked it, right?
Probably.
I have a friend who, you know, is a virulent anti-Trumper and hates, you know, Vance what Vance has become. And remember, Vance was anti-Trump a few years ago. But anyway, this friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, very much liked and admired the book Hillbilly Elegy. But anyway, Peter Thiel has financed the rise of J.D. Vance, and I think it was what happened. I think Elon organized a meeting to bring peace between the formerly anti-Trump Vance and Trump himself, right? And then and Thiel was behind that too. It's like, no, this is how we're going to do it.
So you say, like, when J.D. Vance is on Theo Vaughn, sounding like just a bro, a good guy, good dad, talking about football, that in his mind he's absolutely playing 3D chess.
I don't know
he's like,
I'm not interested in his psychology so much as just pointing out that he does have these undeniable connections, you know? It's not a coincidence. He was picked for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
All right, and here's a nice family photo. Look who we have. It's Donald J. Trump and his future wife, Melania. And who are these two next to him? It looks like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, or I should say Ghislaine Maxwell. Huh. Some of these relationships are discussed in, speaking of Whitney Webb, Volume 2 of her One Nation Under Blackmail. I'm almost done with Volume 2. I finished Volume 1 last year. But, you know, Epstein had and Maxwell had they recruited all these international models and they would pimp them out to rich men. There's reason to believe that this is how Zion Don, and Melania met through the Epstein network. Very likely. Epstein spent a lot of time at Mar-a-Lago, as it turns out. I'm learning about that while reading this book. So, for what it's worth, all of you Trump supporters, keep it in mind. Don't let this cause any cognitive dissonance. All right, so that's Team Coke. Let's look at Team Pepsi.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's such a big difference.
This is the choice of a new generation.
Exactly. Actually, when I do have a choice, if I'm drinking cola at all, I always go for the Pepsi. How about you?
I'd go Coke.
All right. Then we're bitter enemies, man, because they're polar opposites, binary choices. Just look at the colors. This is interesting. Coke is all red, right? Pepsi's pretty red too, but it's got a little bit of blue. Just like, you know, the Democrats are basically Republicans, but they got a little bit of color just to distinguish them from the competitor, from their factional internecine rival. All right, so who does Team Pepsi have on offer this time? Well, it looks like it's Heels Up Harris, otherwise known as Word Salad Harris, or Joy Incorporated.
Now that you've debuted this new technology, just not exactly new for the internet, but new for texting, I think we're going to need to start including more clips because
video clips, yeah,
or even just straight audio. Because if you had a clip now of that that Harris thing that I sent you at one point, what was the expression that she kept on using? There was this one expression:
unburdened by what has been. And she does hand gesture, you know, to hypnotize the crowd. Unburdened.
Yeah, we need more clips.
The word is unburdened.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we talked about that. I mean, if we're considering the moniker word salad, right? Like, she's just not good in front of a microphone. She's not natural. She cackles all the time, and everyone's like, "What's funny? What are you laughing at?"
I have to admit, I haven't watched enough of her, I think, to really have an especially negative feeling towards. I mean, I get that she can be kind of evasive in interviews, but overall, like, I find her satisfactory as a speaker. Not in her terms of
Really?
content, not in terms of content, but in terms of, like, I don't know, ability to
Yeah,
orate or like
I think
voice
you haven't.
volume and
I think you haven't watched enough of her.
yeah, okay.
I mean, yeah, sometimes it's like, what the fuck is she talking about? Do you understand the Heels Up Harris reference?
No.
Well, you know, she got her start working with or for Willie Brown. They dated for a while, and he gave her an important position or did favors for her or something. So,
Who's Willie Brown?
Willie Brown in California. Let's see, former speaker of, let's see, he was mayor of San Francisco. I think that's when they were dating or romantically involved.
But what's the connection between that and this Heels Up Harris?
Well, it's implied that she slept her way to the top, right? Like, after hooking up with him, he made her DA or prosecutor or whatever she was. I don't know the exact position she held, but we do know that you know, she earned the name Cop Mala, and one of her initiatives was to lock up the parents of truant school students and to crack down on, you know, marijuana offenses, to not allow people out of prison that were eligible for parole because it would disrupt the prison labor system. So, in other words, you know, she was pro-slavery in that position. Not a good look.
I'm trying to look up younger pictures of her to see how hot she was.
Oh, she was hot.
Yeah.
Not Jill Stein hot, but, you know, hot enough.
Yeah.
Milfy enough. All right, so here's a slide of Kshama Sawant. I think your work colleague had something to say about this.
Yeah, did you have any reaction to that?
Not really, but you tell me what your discussion with him was like. This is, for those that are just listening, this is, I think, at an abandoned Harris 24 rally or something. Socialist Kshama Sawant's viral speech from Dearborn, Michigan. She says we need to defeat Harris in Michigan and break the two-party system. So, you know, you're going to tell those Muslims in Michigan to vote Harris when she's actively supporting genocide of their people, maybe some of their family members? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, you're going to voter shame them? How dare you?
And the scary thing for me is, like, we should be able to identify enough clearly with Muslim people and with Palestinians that it shouldn't even be just about them. It should be like everyone. I mean, we should stand in solidarity. And so I'm just saying, everyone's focusing on those Muslim communities and how they might shift their vote, but why the fuck wouldn't everyone, right? Like,
yeah, well, they're gonna scapegoat them. You know, last time they blamed Russiagate and you know, Jill Stein voters. Just like before that, they blamed Ralph Nader. So now they're going to blame Muslim voters. And apparently Trump is, if he doesn't win, he's going to blame Jewish voters. He's already, like trying to guilt trip them and threaten them. Like, you better get out there and support me if you care about Israel and your people.
I'll give you this Greg colleague quote again, just to bring that into the conversation. So again, on this thumbnail that you've featured, the quote from Kshama is, "We need to defeat Harris in Michigan and break the two-party system."
Yeah.
Greg, who was looking over our slides, just said, I disagree with her. Defeating Harris will not break up the duopoly. The system as is guarantees there will be one. However, it will either force a major shift to the left on economic issues and foreign policy, or the implosion of the party if they move farther right, a la the Whigs in the late 1840s, and allow for a new party to emerge, parentheses, Republican Party in the 1850s, or maintain the status quo with the Dems as an opposition party, which essentially it has been since Reagan. And by opposing opposition party, he means embracing neoliberal economic and foreign policy and shitting on its traditional base. So, I mean, I think what is let's boil that down to the main point, which is that, yeah, a Harris loss does nothing for breaking up the duopoly. And fair enough. Right? That's fair enough.
Well, I guess Kshama's argument would be they will have to take us seriously next time around. Right?
Yeah. But is there really the ability to influence?
It could lead to this kind of collapse that your colleague is alluding to, possibly.
Yeah.
But if that happens, who's to blame? Not the voters, okay? It's not the voters. You want people's votes, then give them something. Do something for them. Listen to them. I mean,
Greg would
it's
definitely
completely
agree with that sentiment.
It's completely backwards. It's so insane, right? Like, you better vote for the right person. What? Slave suggestion box. Dead air. All right. So our friends from RBN, Revolutionary Blackout Network, Nick Cruz and company.
Shout out to Nick.
Yeah, we always enjoy listening to them and their commentary.
He's brilliant.
But yeah, he is. And so he says, he points out that Barack, he's got a picture of Kamala in her, police uniform. Barack Obama smears black men as sexist for not supporting Kamala Harris. Okay. So, identity politics at the lowest, most obscene level. Of course, it never works when you say, "Oh, I'm a vagina voter too. I support Jill Stein. She's a woman. Don't you support women?" No, not her. Not her. Well, why not? It's just identity, right? That's the only thing that matters. She's a woman. Well, yeah, but she can't win. Okay. And let's not forget, the Democrat Party is now the neocon party. Isn't this beautiful? Country over party. I mean, it's the unity ticket. Kamala and the Cheneys. So beautiful. Liz Cheney and Father Dick Cheney, Darth Vader. He supports Kamala Harris too. So you should as well. And she thanked him for his service to the country. Remember him, Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush's puppet master. Remember him? The most evil man on earth? And now you want his endorsement. I mean, it's just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
What can you say about that? You're going to overlook that? You're going to say, well, but democracy's at stake. Is it? Okay. Okay. So yeah, put on the cap. You got the blue anon equivalent of the MAGA cap, right? White dudes for Harris. Are you down with it, man? Are you on board? You gonna wear the cap proudly as you walk through the streets of St. Petersburg?
I'm not sure if it's warm enough.
I mean, what the fuck? And speaking of democracy, we've got some more AI generated art. The prompt was Joe Biden farting. Before that, I did Joe Biden shitting his pants. That was an interesting pick that the AI spat out too, but this is pretty good. There's Joe Biden farting. Anyone remember him? You know, the guy who actually won the primary, who actually won the votes, and then was replaced in a coup by a person who never got any votes. And the last time she ran, she didn't even make it to Super Tuesday or whatever. Remember that? But now she is supposedly the defender of democracy. She herself was not democratically chosen, but their excuse is, oh, there was a process. Ah, okay, a process. Got it. No comment?
I agree with you, bro. I mean, that was outrageous.
You afraid of upsetting Pops?
Not afraid at all, bro. Not afraid at all. I just, I think you're more eloquent than me on this stuff.
We're equal opportunity offenders, right? We hope we puncture the illusions of everybody.
Sure.
Including ourselves, okay? We're self-critical as well. We turn the
100%.
Yeah, we turn the critical apparatus on ourselves as well. All right, so yeah, this guy, I think, did you see the Jim Gaffigan bit, or not bit, but monologue, I guess, at the Catholic, what's it called? Al Smith dinner. You know, it's like a big Catholic charity. And then
it came up on my algorithm, but I didn't watch.
Yeah, his 30-minute monologue's pretty funny. Like, he attacks Trump because he's a big anti-Trump guy, but he also says, what the fuck is this? Like, Kamala didn't even show up. She sent a video, and after they played it, he said, what the fuck did I just watch? It's like, you know, being forced to watch someone's niece's ballet recital. How absurd. And why is she not here, you know? Anyway, it's worth watching. I thought he was pretty entertaining. But I don't know what the point of this excursus was. Oh yes, I think he said you know, it was like one bad debate and a George Clooney op-ed, and then suddenly the democratically chosen candidate is removed. How does that happen?
Agreed.
And he said, and in other words, her dream came true, meaning Kamala's. Yeah, it's not so funny when I say it, but the way he delivered it was pretty witty. All right, what else do we have? So those are your choices: Coke or Pepsi. Which one? Which one you want, people? Or will you cultivate the post-duopoly vision We've got a couple of images here. What if I told you the left ring, what if I told you the left wing and the right wing belong to the same bird of prey? It might be added. And then this phrase was popularized by Alexander Coburn before he passed, former editor of Counterpunch, which
Cockburn,
used to be
right?
Coburn.
It says Cockburn, but okay.
It's pronounced Coburn.
Okay.
Patrick, his brother Patrick, and who's the other brother? There's one other brother.
How does CK become Coburn?
It's Coburn, man.
I'm just saying. How is it spelled like that?
Look it up.
I believe you. I'm just saying. It's
Anyway, the phrase, which was chosen as the title of one of their anthologies, was "Dime's Worth of Difference." There's a dime's worth of difference between Coke and Pepsi. So, keeping that in mind, you can stay true to the post-duopoly vision. How you feeling?
Fine.
We're like an hour and a half in.
The only things that I think... Well, one reason I'm somewhat reserved on this is, first of all, I think you do a better job kind of analyzing the minutia. And second of all, because psychologically, I'm kind of not checked out of the podcast, but in terms of the election as a whole, it's merely like a spectacle for me.
It's spectacle, yeah.
And so, but in spectacle's defense, I think sometimes it's like pretty entertaining spectacle. You know, like we are exporting a show that a lot of the world is watching, and it's not only spectacle, it has real consequences. I mean, when I say that, I don't mean like the difference between Trump and Kamala has real consequences, but like the actions of the American government have real consequences.
Sure.
And so I don't want to be callous to that, but
you've got to have a sense of humor about it just to maintain your sanity.
And not only
you know?
humor, but just kind of like
backing away from it,
or awe, you know, like just like mouth gaping open at like, what is this? Like, that's like, I'm just planning on the election night stuff, like just kind of watching transfixed and like, wow, you know, like, wow, this is happening, you know, like for example, just arriving at work today and showing people the picture of Trump in the garbage truck, and my South African colleague just hysterical, like from laughter, you know. So like that's like the stuff that we're churning out. It's just like a Broadway show, and we do this every 4 years. We pump billions of dollars into just really, I don't know if I'm comfortable calling it top-notch entertainment, but it's like just watching the whole apparatus run, the constant headlines, like
the horse race.
It's crazy for me. It's crazy for me how many people are willing, like, especially from the press, are willing to kind of just play this game like this is the only thing that matters in the world in a way, right? Like, it's so not, you know. It's like, it's just one of many, many aspects of life, and yet it's like the thing that, I mean, if you want to view it just as like sport and just as entertainment, like, I'm just saying, even if we think about you and me, like how much time, we probably do spend a lot of time watching the videos, reading the articles.
Yeah.
But how much of that is just coming from a place of desiring that quick boost of chemicals that we get from a little bit of like excitement and titillation, and, you know, like,
it's very dangerous, you know. We probably shouldn't even be doing an episode, to be honest. We shouldn't be wasting our time, so much time with this. This is one of the things that that Whitney Webb
Well,
and
that's
James
why I
Corbett.
pushed back a little bit on doing this pod. But at the same time, what about applauding it for its entertainment quality? Is there any space for that?
Well, I think it's important to observe it and analyze it without getting sucked in and getting attached. Attached to
But
any
again, what
outcome.
about the aspect of praise for the show? Are you like?
Oh no, I'm not going to do that. I think it's a shit show. I mean, I can understand.
I'm just testing out that hypothesis.
I understand the open mouth awe that you're talking about. Like, huh? I get that, but yes, in that sense, it's pretty incredible. It's fucking unbelievable. But it's a shit show nonetheless. Let's move on. So, continuing in the post-duopoly vein, we've got some recent headlines from Caitlin Johnstone's Substack.
Well, sorry, my last statement, if you don't mind. If we are talking about spectacle, what, bro? I stayed quiet for a while.
No, I'm carry on. I'm not telling you to shut up.
No, okay. I just wanted to say, if you get to this point of severe detachment, emotional detachment, does Trump become the superior candidate because of you're going to get significantly higher entertainment value from a Trump presidency? You're going to get way better sound bites.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm not gonna.
You're not
I'm
there,
not gonna. No, I'm not gonna say that.
I'm not saying you should say that you want him to win or that you think he's going to be better in any way. I'm just saying he would provide the more entertaining presidency. Can we say that?
Yeah,
from a very morbid and spectacle perspective. We're just talking about you watching a good circus.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to get a better circus.
Circus of the apocalypse. But you're
going to get a better circus.
Yeah, you're going to get an apocalypse either way, so why not have a more competent MC or whatever, ringmaster.
Right. Exactly. This is the alternate.
I'm not going to
podcast title.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I know what you're saying. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But I'm not going to go so far as to say I prefer one or the other, But
all right, do you like Trump, though? I'm going to keep pushing this because this is the part that's more interesting for me. Do you like Trump as an entertainer?
No.
Really? Not at all?
No.
You saw the clips of him dancing to Ave Maria and stuff?
No.
Recently? There was a rally.
But I don't think that would make me like him more.
There was a rally that he just said he initially started by taking a couple questions, and then he told the audience, you guys don't want to hear any more questions. This is boring. And he just played about 40 minutes of music, and he just danced. And this other lady had to kind of go along with it. And he played stuff. He played YMCA, and he played Ave Maria. He kept on, trying to get the Pavarotti version. He was really insistent on that. And just the way he was kind of doing the swaying motion, it's very funny, bro. It's very funny. So he goes off script, and the off script aspect again. What, you think we're so good? That part of Trump is it's chef's kiss.
Yeah, or when he said don't worry about Syria, we're in the part with the oil, and we took the oil.
Yeah. I want to see how he deals with Putin, man.
Well, we already saw.
Did they meet? I can't remember. Did they meet?
Yes, they met. Remember, there was a big scandal because Trump told his interpreter to wait outside or something so he could talk privately to Putin, and everyone said, see, he's getting instructions from the Kremlin.
I'm looking forward to that Trump-Putin meeting.
Well, it may not happen. The so-called Nostradamus of U.S. elections, I think his name is Alan Lichtman. He's predicting a Harris win. And so is, by the way, Gerald Celente, who he's a very fascinating, entertaining, passionate commentator. I don't know if you've ever seen him.
You know that what I'm hearing is that the bookies are all heavily favoring Trump. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah,
or maybe I
so
did.
like the polls are all pretty much calling it neck and neck, but the bookies all have it about 67% Trump, which is interesting.
Well, Salenti's official pronouncement is that, this is only if everything remains stable up until the election. If there's some kind of event that occurs before that or some, irregularity, then anything could happen. But based on the data he's analyzed, and he's been right, and so has this Alan Lichtman guy, he's been right, about every election since I think the 80s, except for Bush Gore, but actually Gore did win the popular vote, So
hanging Chad, bitch.
Yeah. So I don't know. There are two commentators who have pretty good track records saying that it'll be Harris, and some people are saying, the deep state won't allow Trump to be in office again because he's too much of a wild card. But of course, he's got deep state support on his side too. So
right,
you don't know.
He managed to get in once. So
yeah, how'd that happen?
Yeah,
All right, but anyway, here's Caitlin Johnstone. If you don't follow her on Substack, maybe you should. I like
she's
reading
very good.
her stuff. Yeah,
very black pill, but
yeah, black
very
pill.
Witty.
I don't like it. I want a white pill. I want my hopium. But she says you can only support Trump or Harris if you don't see the U.S. empire for the beast it is.
Bravo.
It's a great headline. And she also says Gaza will get worse under Trump. You're right about that shit, libs. But guess what? It'll also get worse under Harris. Aw, sad face emoji. So, you people who your identities are like tied up with whom you're voting for, you might want to reconsider. You might want to reflect on that. You're not a good person because you vote for one or the other, and whoever makes a different choice is not necessarily a bad person. I mean, maybe they are, but they're making their calculations just like you are. So
here.
Let's just please avoid all the sanctimoniousness about voting, about putting your note in the slave's suggestion box, You're not a good person for doing that. If you want to do it, go ahead. I did this time. And I guess we'll save the big reveal for later. But
oh shit.
This article from 2016, coming this summer, Revenge of the Bride of Sophie's Choice, another, canonical post-duopoly article or essay, I would say. It's by C.J. Hopkins. He's also on Substack. He's the editor and I believe only contributor to The Consent Factory. That's a nice Chomskyan name for his website, although now he's mostly on Substack. Back in the day, he published with Counterpunch. He's since had a falling out with them. But basically, Sophie's Choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
The movie. The Nazi guard
the book,
says,
son.
well...
William Styron. Fuck out of here.
Okay. I've not read the book. I've watched the movie. But Meryl Streep is told, you can save one. You want to save the boy or the girl? So his point is that's basically what the U.S. election is, you know? Do you want to save the boy or the girl? We're going to murder the other one so that, you know, it's a false choice, basically. I mean, we could read some of the article, but
or a brutal
I think I'll
choice,
just...
maybe.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, false choice, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, okay, brutal choice. But anyway, let me just...
Because I guess the one thing that there could be some contention on is I would say there are differences between, I mean, I think that there's a genuine, like, despite our cover arts, I think there is genuine animosity, you know, like between the elites of the Democratic and Republican Party. But I just think regardless, there's a massive, you know, a massive greed and capitalist and exploitative nature regardless. So it's like a squabble between the powerful, but neither are giving a shit about the workers.
Well,
Do you agree with that?
Yes, of course. Well, here's an excerpt from the article. I'll put the link in the show notes, but let me just read this part. Choosing not to participate is going to cost you, but you should go ahead and do it anyway, because what is it to gain the world and lose your soul and all that? The simple fact is, we do not have the power to stop the corporate plutocracy from playing its sadistic game, but we do have the power to not humiliate ourselves by willingly participating in it. Let's remember that Sophie and her kids all ended up dead anyway. It was fucking Auschwitz after all. So,
but Sophie, I mean, doesn't die, though.
Well, later she does.
She dies eventually, yes.
No, but she doesn't.
Makes it to America. She
doesn't she commit suicide?
Probably, yeah. But
so that's
from the trauma. Yeah, fair
due
enough.
to the choice that she made, the horrible choice. Anyway, this was written in 2016 when it was Trump versus Hillary, and now it's Trump versus Hillary 2.0. So we're back to the same thing. The most important election of our lifetime, democracy, is on the ballot. All right, so anyway, I'll put a link to that. It's an excellent article worth reading or rereading. So let's talk about the also-rans. Can you believe that just a few months ago, maybe it was a year ago by now, we were enthusiastic about Cornel West's campaign? What a disaster that turned out to be.
Yeah.
And you know, before he revealed himself to be a Zionist fanatic, like more fanatic than fucking Rabbi Shmuley, RFK Jr. said some interesting things. You know, he made a lot of sense, at least rhetorically. But wow.
If you could stomach his voice, no offense.
Yeah.
That's not me trying to be a hater. I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah, sure. But you know, after he said Palestinians are the most pampered people on earth, or whatever the fuck he said, it's like, nope, that's it, deal breaker, fuck you.
For sure.
Yeah.
And watching Jimmy kind of be squeamish on that was pretty cringe, in my opinion. Like I think he was like riding RFK's dick so hard that I don't really feel like he.
Well, he did.
I don't know.
He did. Well, there were two interviews. On one of them, he told him running in the Democratic Party is a fool's errand. So he did challenge him a bit. But anyway, here's some more AI generated art. Look at that. Cornell in the Matrix, and there's RFK Jr. eating a squirrel.
I still have love for Brother Cornell, by the way.
Sure. Well, some people have speculated that. No, he didn't do well.
Operative, but as an orator and
sure, absolutely. Some people speculated that he purposely tanked his campaign so he wouldn't be prosecuted for all the child support he owes. I mean, how else do you explain all the ineptitude? Maybe he just had a legitimate falling out with Jill Stein and the Greens, but yeah, it was quite a disappointment. And RFK, why is he such a Zionist? He did ride on Epstein's plane a couple of times. Could they have blackmail on him? Inquiring minds want to know. All right, and then there she is, Woo! Dr. Jill herself. This is totally inappropriate, but at the same time, it's hilarious, and in a strange way, it's kind of hot. The prompt I gave was Jill Stein in lingerie, and this is what came up. So,
to be fair, it's kind of hot because it's completely unrealistic as well, though. Like, she's not rocking a six-pack like that.
Okay, but whatever. It's an interesting image. Have you noticed that, like, AI doesn't do well with fingers and toes?
I don't know. We didn't talk about that, but that's a massive way. Right now, that's like the quick hack on figuring out whether it's AI or not.
Why is really that? Why can't it learn that there are 5 fingers and 5 toes on a normal
it's just a matter of
human
time.
body?
It is strange, though.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say it now. Let's move on. Of course, you could also vote for Claudia de la Cruz, and her running mate is Karina somebody, but their slogan is "End capitalism before it ends us."
That's a very attractive poster.
Yeah, I mean, I was interested in her. She did not appear on the ballot I received, but okay. I mean, she's an anti-genocide candidate along with Dr. Jill, of course, and Cornell, of course. Not RFK though. And then I don't know if you ever watch Primo Radical. Sometimes he's got some good videos, but I didn't watch this, but I just saw it pop up. Joseph Kishore is the Socialist Equality presidential nominee. I didn't even know. And then, of course, there's the Libertarian candidate who is like a woke Libertarian. Dave Smith thinks he's like a CIA plant, I don't remember why exactly, but in this picture, you see him with a rainbow "Don't Tread on Me" flag. So, okay. Some people might choose to go third party that way. Chase Oliver.
We see you, Chase.
Yep. And this is an image. Vote for me with a hand giving the viewer the bird, flipping the viewer off.
Endorsement or
this is my creation. I mean, it's my concept. The graphic designer I work with kind of fleshed it out for me, but it appears in my short satirical piece, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 2020, which I will read an excerpt from. This is from Ernest Games. This is the most important election of our lifetime. I realize we said that at the last election, and the election before that, and the election before that. And we will likely say it at the next election, and the election after that, and the election after that. But this time we really mean it. The freedoms we cherish are under attack. Our very way of life is at stake. Democracy itself hangs in the balance. Just kidding, of course. We don't have democracy in this country. Never did, really. Even you rubes who make up the 99% know that. We have an electoral circus that comes to town once every 4 years so that you can pretend to have a say in how you are governed. Well, I hate to break the news to you, but we don't actually want the input of the hoi polloi. Instead, we are pleased to provide you peasants with the illusion of choice. Politics in the exceptional nation consists merely of the periodic postulation of the eternal question: Coke or Pepsi? I'll be
Going
posting
RC, baby. Going RC.
I'll be posting. Yeah, what about root beer? I'll be posting the audiobook excerpt on YouTube. Hopefully
Very nice.
before this is posted on Substack. So stay tuned for that. Vote for me. Okay, but did you vote? I think you've already told us you didn't. So you made
Sadly.
no effort to get an absentee ballot?
No.
Okay, can you explain why? I mean, do you agree with Morrissey that each time you vote you support the process and you didn't want to support it, or you just couldn't be bothered?
I'd say a combination of laziness and a slight protest that, like, this is the way to change things. Like,
right.
You know, I just think
disenchantment with electoral politics.
And just the idea that, like, what? Like, the government that rules us is, like, defining of our life conditions. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think, like, fuck that. Like, there's so many factors that define happiness and welfare, and, like, yeah, the demand that this is the way to make the world or my life or other people's lives better is through this system, this arbitrary system that's, like, separate from me and, like, has decided that it has the power. Like, there's so many power structures. It's not just the government. There's, like, the power structure of the family, the power structure of my school. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. So this sense of, like, obligation to this one demands my. So I guess it's my intellectual snobbery there, in a sense that, like, if nations are imagined in the first place, why do I have to participate in the imagination game?
Well, it's also cultish, you know? It's like you're buying into this almost religious notion that this shit matters, right?
Right.
You're going through the ritual. Do you know how many people died for your right to vote? Like, they guilt trip you with your grandfather who died in World War II. He died so that you could choose between Trump and Harris.
Right. So I guess it's like, yeah, I'm rejecting this apparatus.
Good for you, man. Yeah. I'll just confess, I actually did vote. I don't know why.
Although I would say, if it was made easier for me, sorry to cut you off. If it was made easier for me, I would.
Yeah, that's my big reveal, man. You just stepped all over that.
My bad.
No, go ahead.
If it was made very easy for me, for me, like, I got a survey and I got to just send a message, I would have voted, and I would have voted third party.
Right. Well, I took the trouble to do it because, you know, I had been through it before. And, you know, I just wanted to signify that I'm anti-genocide. Why do that? Yeah. Everyone that knows me knows I am. Like, what did I do it just to make myself feel better? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Like, maybe I can argue that. Maybe I can argue that. Legit. Okay, but maybe I can argue I'm helping the Greens get 5%, and maybe they can change the dynamic, right? By being on the debate stage next time. But anyway, that's what I did. I voted for Jill Stein in the non-swing state of Texas. But you know what? Even if I were in a swing state, I would have voted for Jill Stein or sat out.
How dare you? You are disgusting.
Yeah,
you disgust me.
So don't tell me, you know, she's taken away votes from either of those other candidates. And
the Jill Stein vanity project.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Most third-party voters just wouldn't vote, you know? You don't get to automatically take their vote and put it in your favorite candidate's tally or the reverse, right? So anyway. Yeah, the big reveal. Who gives a fuck? All right, but this is a different question, right? Because realistically, I can say I hope Jill Stein wins, but how likely is that? So who do you hope wins this horse race or sporting event? I think I know your answer. I hate to say this,
but I'm surprised to say it, but I'm going to have to go Trump.
I'm not surprised. I think you had mentioned that before.
Obviously, I've got the Russia issue, which I do think Trump is better on, and then the other aspect is just, I guess that, to be honest, like that's the main thing. I think he's better on Russia. And, like I live in Russia.
Your family's gonna disown you.
I'm not.
They better not watch this. Yeah, they better not watch this. I see what you mean, and of course, man, Harris will just be a continuation of Biden. It'll be the same deep state actors. Fucking, what's that clown's name? Jake Sullivan, that piece of shit. You're gonna be seeing Matthew Miller lying and obfuscating. They'll probably bring Victoria Nuland back. They'll probably give the Cheneys some influence, you know, bring in more neocons. So I certainly don't want to see that win, but at the same time, I don't want to see Zion Dawn win either. So a pox on both their houses.
No, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. Then okay, I don't want to say Trump then.
Then I say Jill Stein. I hope she wins. I hope.
Okay, well then I'm taking back my Trump then.
I'm gonna.
The point is Trump or come on, just answer the question: Trump or Kamala. No, I understand your point.
I'm not. I'm not playing Sophie's choice.
It's not the same as voting. It's not
gun
the same.
to the head. Gun to the head. Shoot me in the head.
It's not the same though.
Shoot me in the head.
It's not the same. Because you know you're going to have one of the two as your next president. You have zero preference?
It's too disgusting to contemplate. Okay. I mean, maybe that's a dodge, but I'm not playing that. I'm not playing Sophie's choice with you. Sorry. I tricked you into playing maybe, which is unfair. All right, well then
unfair. I will also just say that a second thing that I think could be better about a Trump presidency is like, if he does go full on like madman, then the leftist or the opposition reaction could be like exactly what America needs, you know? And I think that the reaction could be stronger to Trump than it would be to Kamala in some way. Or like, maybe not even stronger, but like have better ideals. Like, I don't think that the MAGA revolt against Kamala would probably be pretty disgusting, you know? Like, so now I'm being elitist about MAGA supporters' revolt, but I think
like, they're garbage, right?
Exactly, they're
basket of deplorables.
So yeah, no, I'm saying.
But you're an adorable deplorable.
Thank you. So I think that a revolution against the worst side of Trump could be good, right? Like if Trump doesn't go full crazy, then maybe he'll actually be better than Kamala. And if he does go full crazy, then the revolution will be necessary and it'll come quicker. That's my perverse analysis.
That is pretty perverse. This is your image. Govern me harder, Daddy. And it's a
I love that.
It's a person with a QR code on his forehead, a mask.
There are better versions of that, by the way.
Three jabs.
When you got all kinds of like other woke stuff going on the person, I think those are even funnier. But yeah, that's a pretty decent one. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
There are ones that he just like. There's like ones that they're just covered with absolutely every sign. Anyways.
All right, and on a lighter note, here's who is that? Lucy? What's her name? Lucy and Charlie Brown?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Or is that Sally? That's Lucy,
I
right?
don't know.
Lucy
Probably.
says, "We're doomed." And Charlie Brown says, "Don't say that." Because presidents are temporary, but Wu-Tang is forever.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
So we end on a happy note, an optimistic note. We're white pilling you people after all, okay? We're giving you just a little bit of hopium.
And here's my hopium, is that our cynicism and condemnation of government, for me, the part I won't agree with is that we are slaves. Like, I don't consider myself a slave. I think I'm very grateful for life and for my situation, my circumstances. I think life is, we can at the same time say life is beautiful, life is miraculous, and we're full of gratitude for life. And at the same time say that this particular apparatus is like fairly evil in some way.
Well, that's the context.
Like
they're not saying you're absolutely a slave, but when you participate in the system, each time you vote, you support the process, you're kind of buying into the slave dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to say that, I don't see life as misery at all.
Okay, but that's not what we've been talking about.
Well, I'm just saying in a way we are, because we're saying like they're creating a world that's, that's full of murder and genocide and destruction, but the world is also a lot of other things that are delightful.
Okay.
And in a way you could say that they're, well, they haven't, it's not like they've created a full state of,
but getting caught up in this spectacle degrades us. Would you agree with that? Getting attached and getting caught up in it, that doesn't enrich our life.
If it's bringing out darkness inside of you, then yes.
Yeah, it's not enriching our lives in any way.
Unless you really step back and just watch it for entertainment.
Okay, but that's not getting caught up in it. That's not getting overly emotionally involved and invested in it.
Yeah.
But we've done 2 hours. I can't do any more. We've talked this to death. We're not telling anyone what to do. Do whatever makes you feel good. But hopefully we gave you some interesting things to ponder. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. Maybe we wasted your time. All 2 hours. But we're just texting here. We're just textual deviants. Our text this time was election, erection, selection 2024, U.S. style. Subscribe to my newsletter at markwillwright, WRITE.substack.com. My co-host is at tomekb.substack.com. My YouTube channel is at markwillwright, WRITE. And it seems like I lost my co-host, so I'll just sign off here. See you next time.